Hey, Robert Brand with Grand Real Estate. Today we're talking about the Airbnb revenue crash that everybody's freaking out about and what that potentially means for Airbnb. So let's just jump right into it and just talk about the Airbnb revenue crash that a lot of people think are going to lead to a market crash. And we're going to just break down what everybody's thinking and a little bit more about Airbnbs in general, making good decisions with that, as well as the market in whole in most of those areas. So let's jump right over here. I'm going to share my screen. We're looking right here. It says Airbnb rental revenues have plunged in some parts of the US. This chart suggests, but some doubt surrounding the data. So this chart down below, trying to pull this guy up here, right here, showing the top 10 cities that have had a plunge in Airbnb. Actually, we got 15 cities here that have a plunge in Airbnb revenue. So the number one being Saryville, Tennessee, a negative 47% drop. So essentially a 50% drop from last year, 2022 to 2023. Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, Texas, 47, 46, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 45, San Antonio, Texas, 43. All of them, and it just goes on and on, right down to Nashville, Tennessee, 39% drop, down to Orlando at a 34. Those are huge revenue drops. And it brings me back to what I've said about Airbnbs like all along. And I always think with Airbnbs, you need to have a multiplication of unit or a multiplication of what types of users you're going after. So, and people tend to follow hot markets and everything we do. So when you look at like the Airbnb people out there and everybody, like right now, it's the hot thing to do. So everybody wants to create an Airbnb. And when that happens, of course, a lot of people do it. So then what happens is they just don't do a good job with it. So, and they don't research the market, which was another video I just talked about. Number one thing you need to do when you're getting into a market is market research. Research is the number one thing. You have to know the local market. So thinking about like a local market for like an Airbnb, we look at markets that have what I would call a trifecta. The trifecta of a market could be to like a tourism market, but also like a tourism market that has something else, like a great college by it or a military installation. And if you can get all three of those things in one spot, then you potentially are going to have yourself a pretty stable market where you're going to have a lot of people coming in. Healthcare is another one. If you can find a market and that's say like it's not even beach related, because when people think about short-term rentals or Airbnbs and things like that, or VRBOs, a lot of them are in vacation spots. And so those vacation spots are places that tend to see revenue dips when the economy dips or anything else happens. They're just activities down for one reason or the other. So the trifecta concept is basically, wow, I've got this location here, maybe 250,000 people, and you've got a healthcare facility being built that's massive at a massive scale. Then you've got a great college with great football teams and great sports and things like that. There's another aspect of it. And oh wow, look at this. We have this, military base that's, 30 minutes away or 20 minutes away from this nice city. So that means there's probably going to be a lot of families coming to visit. Families come and repeat visit college students. Families come and visit military people. People move into towns for medical, travel nursing, all sorts of stuff that can happen. But if you just focus on one thing and you shoot for that one thing, you're going to potentially set yourself up for failure if you didn't do the market research. So, and like the number one of the top things on that list was Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is a great place, but there's also 8 million people there. So there's probably a lot of people that are saturating the market with Airbnbs. A lot of them are probably not doing good with it. When there's a lot of stuff going on, it's probably great. But when it dips off a little bit or people aren't traveling like they used to last year, then it's been diluted in the masses. And there is a lot of activity that goes on in Phoenix, Arizona. There's baseball, there's healthcare, there's universities. I'm sure there's military. There's all these things. But really, when you look at it, it's a very large market. And so for everybody running there and the masses moving there and doing everything, it's going to potentially drop that market. So the second thing that I see people do wrong, in short-term rentals after they've you figured out the market, is they don't focus on the experience, that client experience. People go and rent Airbnbs, not just have a flop shop. They want the experience. And so you have to think about your Airbnb in whole, like what are you providing, what experience wise? Like in a hotel, they can pay for a nicer hotel and have an amazing experience. So you have to think, how can I recreate that experience for them? And what am I bringing to the table to get them to repeat book with me or come back or just thoroughly enjoy the experience? How responsive I am. When people pick up the phone at a hotel, they can press zero and get the hotel operator right on the line and start figuring out something they need, or a concierge to figure out what they need. So you do have to have those types of things set up in order to truly provide an amazing experience for people. And if you're not thinking about what their experience is, then you're really failing if you're just providing the bare necessities. I remember renting an Airbnb when I took my kids to Disneyland in California. I rented this Airbnb that was on the beach and I thought this was going to be amazing. And like 2 days before, they asked me if I wanted sheets and bedding in the house. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, sheets and bedding or bedding service. And I was like, I rented a place. Like, I think it should come with sheets and beds. And they're like, oh, a service provides that and you have to pay extra for it. It was told to me in the 23rd hour. It was really upsetting. Now I'm already thinking like, this experience is going to suck. I get there, I get to the place. There isn't even like a salt shaker, in the kitchen. There's barely anything in the kitchen to utilize to even cook if I wanted to. And it was just kind of just a horrible experience. And it just started from the get-go, with them asking me like, do you want bed sheets on the bed today? It's like, or do you want towels in the bathroom? Oh no, I'd like to not have any towels in the bathroom and I'll just drip dry and I'll just sleep on the mattress. I'll be good with that. That's a horrible experience. And I guarantee you in a market downturn, that Airbnb is losing quickly. And they're the ones that are talking about 50% revenue drop right there. The third thing that I think is kind of important to think about is how much did you pay for the price of the home and can the rent support it? A lot of people don't dive into the data of the short-term rental side and they don't really do the research on what that house can actually produce in that location. And there's tons of data factories out there that are able to give you good information on revenue and revenue projections and things like that. And so if you're not diving into that data, that's really not a very smart way to go about it, because it's just like any other rental. Would you buy a house that costs you $500,000 to rent it for $1,000 a month? That's just a bad investment. Your mortgage can't cover that. You'd be paying for somebody to live there. So the same concept is important with an Airbnb. You have to understand like, okay, if I'm going to pay X for it, can it generate this? And what's my net? What am I netting in the end after all my expenses? And all your expenses have to include, right down to, what does it cost for me to manage this thing or have it managed? Or what is it costing for me to supply this thing and restock this thing? So your true net at the end of the year is what you're really, really looking for. And that's a really important thing to go over. The next thing, do I think the market is going to crash with Airbnbs or short-term rentals, VRBOs, whatever you want to call it? Everybody calls it something else. In those areas, I think with anything, if owners start selling things off, it will cause the market to slow. But everybody likes to be doom and gloom and like, is it going to crash? I think not. We're still behind on housing supply in the United States. In the United States, I think they say, building is still 6 million units or 8 million, some ungodly amount of units behind. Now people need housing, so they're going to have to buy things. And what really is starting to hurt people is their wages aren't keeping up with housing. And so they're spending more and more of their wage on housing. So, and I think, there's government regulations on how much you can actually spend to get a loan, your debt to income ratios and all that stuff. But people are maxing to that exact possible amount that they can get to in order to get a house. So with that, like, I think regardless, inventory has been at a historic low, the lowest I've seen in probably the last 15 years. And even right now in my local market, last year, the inventory was like 1 month. And this year it's like 1.2 months. So meaning, if no more houses come on the market in 1.2 months, all the houses are gone. 6 months is a neutral market. So 6 months means buyers and sellers can kind of go back and forth and decide, I'll give this or take that or this, and I can make a better deal here and get myself this, added into the deal to make the deal work. So when you're not even close to 6 months, if the inventory in that market isn't even close to that, the amount of homes that are going to sell off, what does it raise it to 2 or 3 months? It starts trending towards a buyer's market. People get better deals. Prices do go down a little bit. but still year over year, prices probably will remain high or go up or be flat, which is normal. Everybody's used to 20 or 30% increases, which are crazy increases in a market, but really 3 to 5% appreciation is pretty much normal in most markets. And it's what the real estate market would totally be, unless you force appreciation through rehabbing and other things like that. So do I think the market's going to crash? No, I don't think it's going to crash. Once again, you read the headlines in the news, they want to tell you everything's going to crash because they want to let you know the sky is falling. But I don't think it's going to happen. So with that, we've updated you on what we think is going to happen with Airbnbs, what you should do with Airbnbs, and how you should treat your Airbnb, and how you should make a purchase on an Airbnb. So if you enjoy this information and this content that I'm putting out, please like, follow, and share online. We would really appreciate that. So have a great day. Signing out.